Colossians. Colossians chapter 1 verses 15 points out how God looks. Colossians chapter 15 first starts off pointing out a point about Jesus. And the second point, it points out about a fact about God. So the first point is, it says, He, which is referring to Jesus, He is the image. And the image means likeness. He is the likeness or image of the invisible God. And that's the second point. The invisible God. So God is invisible. We can't see him. He's invisible. Now this is actually not kind of, this is a deep thought here, because it's saying with 2 points and 1 point really, but this 1 point connects to a second point, because it's explaining how Jesus is the image or likeness of the invisible God. Now, if someone was trying to take this to have a physical meaning, that wouldn't make no sense at all. It will be like, let's say I help out a lady and a lady called me Angel, and someone took that to mean me to be a literal angel. Like, that don't make sense. I'm a human. I don't have wings. I'm not a spirit. I can't fly to heaven. That don't make sense. It don't connect. That piece of the puzzle can't fit that way. It don't match. So here's just pointing out 1 point about how God is invisible. So that's just 1 point we're pointing out. Also, I would like to share that God is a spirit. That scripture is at John chapter 4, verse 24, which reads, and it's Jesus that's saying this, God is a spirit. Or in some other Bible verses, they may say in their Bibles, God is spirit, which is the same meaning. God is spirit, or God is a spirit. It's referring to God is a spirit. And this spirit is not of the flesh. A spirit is not of the flesh. And this spirit is invisible. So the main point is we're highlighting on this video, God is invisible. And the only reason I went to John chapter 4 verse 24 was to show why he is invisible, because he's a spirit. Now, he also does have a personality and all these other details. He has a personal name. He has life in him. I'm going to point that out. God has life in him, the same as the Son. Jesus points this out at John chapter 5, verses 26, where Jesus says, for as the Father has life in himself, so also he has granted the Son. So this is not just some spirit that's invisible, that's just powerful. This is a living being we're talking about. That's a spirit that consists of being a spirit, something not of the flesh, that's invisible. So this is just one of the reasons why no man can see God. It's just one of the reasons why. Because how can you see something that's invisible? No man has seen God. At John chapter 1, verse 18, Jesus, it speaks about later on how Jesus was from heaven and he saw God. However, the first point at John chapter 1, verse 18, it says, no one has ever seen God. In some Bible translations, it points out no man, which makes more sense because angels see God. In Job chapter 1 and Job chapter 2, it speaks about how Satan entered in among the stations in heaven to see God. So for it to, some Bible translations to say no one has ever seen God, that really don't make sense. Unless they clarify who is no one consistent of talking about. Talking about physical beings or spiritual beings. Because spiritual beings have seen God. Jesus has seen God. The Word was with God, as John chapter 1 verse 1 says. So definitely there are different spirit creatures in heaven that have seen God. Even this verse itself, it says, John chapter 1 verse 18. That's John chapter 1 verse 18, which reads, no man has seen God at any time. Then it's got a colon mark. The only begotten God who is at the Father's side, or in the bosom position. Let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, the one that's in the bosom position with the Father. Is the one who has explained them. So this point is just pointing out how the spirit, how God is a spirit, he's an invisible spirit. And this is one of the reasons why no man has seen God.